everyone, and welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today we're doing another indie horror spotlight. Today I have with us, he's a director, and he has an amazing short streaming on his YouTube channel right now, and it's called Ball Out. I have with us the filmmaker and director, Derek Silver. Derek, welcome to the Horror Room.
Thanks, Travis. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure, man. So tell us a little bit about Ball Out.
A lot of people pronounce it Baal. That's like correct how you pronounce the Canaan deity Baal, but I actually pronounce it bailout, like an economic bailout, bailing out the banks. That's kind of where I've had this idea kicking around in my head since like the 2008 bank bailouts and stuff like that. So, it has some economic themes of this millennial who's kind of, burdened by debt and is kind of looking for something more out of life, gets confronted with the Faustian bargain where he has to trade his soul for fame and riches, and kind of meets at the crossroad with Baal or Baal.
Now, without giving away anything, but by the way, everyone, please check this out and definitely subscribe to his channel, which is down in the description box. Without giving anything away, this has a shocking and a disturbing ending.
Yes, it's definitely we flagged it as 18 plus on YouTube, and it's definitely for mature audiences only.
So, yes, this movie definitely does have a lot of economic impact. But what gave you the idea for the story?
Like I said, I've kind of had the idea loosely in my head since around 2008. When Congress was like coming together and they were like, oh, we got to do this bailout or it's going to be apocalypse. And it's like, it just felt like we were being held hostage here as the American populace. Like, okay, we have to, make this sacrifice to the banks, to these people who have made all these risky decisions, and they're just going to take all this taxpayer money. And if you dig into like what some of these people are doing in their spare time, it's come out a lot over the last number of years. Like all these people are going to these weird sex ritual islands, and
yes,
they've they've done some questionable things. It's basically an Eyes Wide Shut scenario here. So, to me, every time I started hearing bailout, I was like, these motherfuckers they're letting Baal out. They're summoning Moloch, they're summoning Kronos. Baal is kind of transformed throughout mythology. It's kind of filled that that duality. The Ashley character is kind of his Ashara counterpart of the kind of fertility sex magic ritual that's kind of going on.
And one of the things you actually brought up in the movie too that I thought about, I was like, wait a minute, that actually does make sense. A lot of the most powerful people in this country believe in some kind of weird religion, whether it be Scientology,
right,
or something else. And I was like, wow, that actually does make a lot of sense. Because you rarely hear a lot of famous people talk about that they believe in Christianity. Even if they do, they don't talk about it. But the ones who do have a religious belief, they are quick to talk about it.
Right. Yeah, especially in American politics, like you kind of have to fit this trope to be electable, right? So like all the consultants are around you, like most recently, like with Biden and his dog or whatever, like the dog keeps biting everybody or whatever. It's just like, well, maybe you don't really have enough time you got a lot of important things to do, right? As the president of the United States, like raising a dog is probably not something that fits into the top priority. Like, okay, when you leave office, maybe you can have a dog, but like, we've built this like cliche of like what, the position looks like. And okay, well, this is modern America. You need to have a dog so you can relate to the people or whatever. Yeah, same thing about Christianity. And it's just like, well, are these people actually devout Christians? A lot of these people, if you remember back, this was kind of around the time of the bailouts with Bush and Kerry and the "Don't Tase Me, Bro." like the guy was standing up asking, like, well, hey, both of you guys are in Skull and Bones, right? Like, you're in this secret fraternal order. Like, where do your allegiances lie? If you're sworn an oath to the Constitution and to, American civil service, but you also have this, fraternal order at Yale that you're not really willing to talk about, and you kind of just make light of it and joke about it, and you say, oh, it's so secret, I can't talk about it, ha ha ha, next question. It's just like, well, where are your allegiances? It's like you come out and you say you're Christian, and you're just pandering to the populace, right? Like, if you're not willing to really divulge some of these things, some of these esoteric fraternal orders that you subscribe to, then maybe you're not being trustworthy.
I agree. Now, I was actually having a conversation with someone, not on camera, but just in personal life recently, and I was talking about, I've worked in corporate America, and but you also see it also too in Hollywood. You see it in all celebrities. You see it with the rich and famous. They're powerful. It's impossible to. I'm not saying it's possible. It's hard to be a good person and be powerful. It's hard to be a good person and be wealthy. In order to be wealthy, you have to step on people to get there. I mean, it's impossible. This is someone who's a business major. It's impossible to not do that. You have to, if you're a company or business, you have to put small mom and pop companies out of business in order to be rich. You just have to.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think on the path to, being rich and famous through different venues like celebrities, musical artists and stuff, they lose a lot of the creative control over their music. Obviously they're talented, that's what got them in the door. And then, I believe a lot of them have kind of accepted this Faustian bargain willingly, or maybe unbeknownst to them, but it's the devil's in the details, where you look at a lot of their music videos and it looks pretty blatant, the symbolism, maybe not to like pop audience, but if you kind of dissect it and you analyze it, like, well, why are they showing us these images? What is it about covering one eye, and you see every pop musician on the cover of every magazine doing the same positions, doing the same kind of esoteric hand symbols, and just once you start digging into it, it's just like, the people that are putting these people into these positions are the ones really pulling the strings, and they're the ones really conveying the message, not the message within the music, And
Right.
Most music, like, you can't even really pick a genre. You're not going to find it on Sirius XM. You know what I mean? There's no real punk music. It's all like Blink 182 stuff. There's no real indie hip hop. There's like Rock the Bells that has some, decent 80s and 90s stuff. But, there's tons of like conscious music out there that just, in broader perspective, conscious art, this, talking a little above, just pop songs and, action films and stuff like that just will never really ever see the light of day, because, it's being subverted basically throughout the culture.
And I grew up in the 80s, and it seems like each generation has this weird way of thinking, and if you look at it, it's the media, it's the society. It's like right now we're in this weird. See, I'm gonna get myself in trouble for saying it, but we're in this weird equality stage of society, which is, listen, I'm all for women and men equality on this and that, but but men and women are not equal. I mean, it's never been that way. It's never. I mean, just genetically, biologically,
everybody has different strengths.
Exactly. And so we're in that stage, and we're also in this politically correct stage,
right,
where you can't say what you want to say, and you can't believe in what your eyes and your ears are telling you. You have to believe in what the
I'm with you 100%. I
masses.
kind of I'm on the line between Gen X and millennial, but I kind of choose to identify more with the the Gen X. I feel like they had more cultural progressiveness that we've seen a kind of a regression. Like through the 90s, I felt like there were things you could see in prior generations that were being corrected by the new generations, and it's just like that's stupid the way you think about these things. And we've really become a melting pot. Everybody's getting along. Like I grew up skateboarding, like everybody was welcome in skateboard culture. I thought it fused well with hip hop culture, and I thought we were making a lot of progress as a society. But yeah, lately, like the last like decade or so, with all this like DEI stuff that's going on, and in corporate America, because I got a corporate day job that pays the bills. I can't just make films all day, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And you see it. It's pretty much it all happened at the same time. It wasn't an organic thing. It was something that happened through these big investment companies and stuff like BlackRock and companies like that. Now there's one or two other of those big index fund companies that basically multi-trillion-dollar companies that are invested in every large corporation, and then every large corporation has this kind of I call it a kind of a Marxist agenda. It's kind of breaking down people by class and by gender and by race, and it's just like, well, inherently this stuff is sexist, it's racist. Like at my day job, hopefully I'm not getting myself in trouble too, but I say this stuff at work. Not that I'm going around protesting at the office, but they'll have a book club, and it's like like a woman book club or a black book club or something. It's just like, well, it sounds like something I might want to read. If you didn't stamp it with like who's running it or who's invited, then maybe I would attend. But now I feel like I'm not included, So it's just like, well, you're not really, the I piece of the inclusivity of the DEI thing isn't really working when you're putting all these stamps of like who's allowed and who's not allowed or who it's for. It's just like, if you just put it out there, isn't this the way we were organically behaving? You kind of shun the bad behavior and you praise the good behavior, and we just move forward. You don't need all these labels, and everything doesn't need to be in some type of category.
I agree. I mean, listen, I am a firm believer on like women's rights and women's equalities. I'm a firm believer in LGBTQ and this and that. I'm listen, live your life the way you want to live it, and I'll respect you for the way you live your life. But at the same time, to force me to think away or do away or speak away, it's like I'm like, that's not the way the world works, But it kind of is now.
Yeah, it is, and it's unfortunate because it feels regressive to me. I feel like we've already passed some of these talking points, and it just feels belittling, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, it's unfortunate. I think a lot of it's going to organically correct. From my perspective, when the BLM stuff started taking off, it kind of went overboard, and it's just like, I think it's been exposed at this point. Like the BLM as the organization wasn't really doing anything to benefit the people who were,
it was
taken advantage of.
It was an absolute fucking scam. It was an absolute fucking scam.
None of that money went back to any of those people who were, screwed over by the system or whatever. It went to financing all these people who moved into these rich white neighborhoods, and it's just like,
yes,
it's gone now, right? Nobody even talks about it anymore.
But the thing about it, and the fucked up thing about it was all black women who were part of the scam. I mean, the black women were in charge of Black Lives Matter, and they were part of the fucking scam. And like, none of that money went to helping underprivileged black individuals or civil. It was just a fucking scam. But I feel like once you start getting into these big organizations and start building, you know, these big organizations, it becomes the meaning of the organization kind of gets pushed to the back burner, and it just becomes a big money thing at that point.
Right, right, and I think that's the key. It's to the companies that have this like DEI initiative kind of forced down on them, or the ESG score that kind of rank, like the BlackRock will rank these companies by their ESG score. And I think, the number one priority of these companies, for better or worse, is to generate profit for the shareholders. And by investing all this money into these, new directors, the DEI directors, and all this stuff, you're not generating any profit off of it. If you're not really, if it's not generating a profit, if it's not benefiting the company, and it's kind of draining the company, especially like, as the market is changing due to, all kinds of different factors of inflation, international conflict and supply chain and all these other things that are impacting the market over the last couple of years. It's going to have to self-correct, or these companies are just going to have to fall on their sword. Like, okay, well, we're going to keep investing in these malinvestments to our own detriment until, we're just a corpse.
Yeah.
Or you're going to have to correct and say, okay, well, this we tried it. It didn't really work for us. We're going to go a different direction and, reorg the executive piece of the company or whatever. So I think some of that is already kind of happening. I think it'll be a quiet thing too, kind of like, BLM kind of shrugging off into the shadows. It'll kind of be a thing that just doesn't happen anymore. Because like I see it at my company, like you see, these initiatives, like I was talking about these book clubs, and it just gets like very low engagement. Like, nobody's interested in it.
Yeah. By the way, I joined a women's horror book club on YouTube, and I was like, this is because I interview a lot of women horror authors. I was like, oh, this is a great way for me to
branch
promote
out.
women horror authors, and like, but they like, I made a post, promoting a woman author I interviewed. I promoted her work, and they like took it down, and they like kicked me out. They said, "Well, you can't make a post because you're a man." And I'm like, "Okay, but I'm promoting. I'm not promoting my. Well, I'm not promoting my channel. I'm promoting another woman horror author." And like, I was like, I don't get that. Like, I'm on your team. I'm helping you.
Right. Exactly. It's kind of bewildering. I've heard a lot of these stories too from other people, part of the cast and crew of Bailout have similar stories. I don't want to share anybody else's personal stories, but it's unfortunate. It's just like, it's basically, if you don't identify the way that we expect you to identify as part of the community, then you're kind of ostracized. Like, I don't know if I want to go down that road necessarily. It's not really my story to tell anyway. So, but I understand exactly what you're saying. It's just, and especially if that happens to you once, it's like, well, I'm not going to try it again. It's just like, well, I was trying to give you a platform and offer something of to contribute to this women's book club or whatever.
I'm on the team. I'm on your team, and
right.
like, okay, but let's shoot out to Bailout real quick. Did you ever think about making it? Were your intentions to make it so short, or were you, or did you ever think yourself, well, I wonder what this will look like as a feature length?
No, not necessarily. I do have some ideas and concepts and outlines and stuff for features, but not specifically with Bailout. Basically, my approach has been to just kind of incrementally increase in different departments and improve the production value kind of each film as I go. So if you watch Succubi Scry was the first film where we started putting it into film festivals. It was 4.5 minutes long. Um, Jessica Felice was in that film as well, and another actor, Connor Marsh. It was just two actors, one room, and it was very visual effects heavy. It's my business partner, Joe Rackley. I went to film school for visual effects, and it was kind of a showcase of his abilities and stuff there. But very basic in terms of the story and the characters. And then we made a quarantine film shortly after that called Third Wave. We added some more locations. We did a lot more stabilization shots, more action, gunfights, and stuff like that.
Right.
And then with Bailout, yeah, it was a quarantine film too. So it was like going on. We weren't really doing a lot of casting or anything because of COVID and everything. So it was like, what can we do with what we have? But then when it came to shoot Bailout, it's like, want to bring somebody in for the cinematography department so we can, get away from being behind the camera and trying to direct and, art direct and manage props and manage wardrobe because, it's just a couple of us basically running the production. So, that was one thing where we kind of improved on. We brought in Sean Anthony, who works closely with Jessica Felice, and we had met him through Succubi Scry. This was our first time working together, so we knew we wanted to improve in the cinematography department, and we hired an illustrator for the poster, Ian Postley. We met him at the Ocean City Film Festival, and he's done all their posters, and he's just a really great illustrator. He's got exhibits at the Art League in Ocean City, and really down-to-earth guy, easy to work with. Came up with a really awesome poster. Worked with Brave New World, the band who made the title song Bailout that you hear over the credits.
Nice.
To add that extra layer. And then we worked in a little bit more locations, a little bit longer runtime. So not trying to overextend ourselves, especially with such a small crew of going, all the way for a feature. Just like, okay, let's, incrementally build upon what we're doing well, and, try to improve on areas where we think there's area for improvement. So that was kind of the mindset of just, take what we've done and build upon it just incrementally.
Now, how important is, because I have a lot of new indie filmmakers who actually watch my channel, and some who are just starting off. How important is it as a indie filmmaker to have that core group with you? You talk about not wanting to wear as many hats. How important it is to have certain individuals to delegate certain assignments to?
It's critical. I mean, it's a team sport. You're going to rely on, other people to get it all done, and you can't do it all yourself. But you're going to have to do a lot yourself. If you're doing it the indie route, you're going to be wearing a lot of hats, and it's going to cause a lot of anxiety. That's another reason.
Imagine.
Another thing we did this time for the first time was a fundraiser to help supplement the cost of the film, and trying to manage that while like nailing down the last month of pre-production logistics going into production weekend. When you have people flying in and you're trying to coordinate with the actors and the locations, and the location fell through like just 2 or 3 weeks before production, and like trying to deal with all that, and like trying to keep up like the public relations piece of the fundraiser and everything. It's and do your day job, right? It's just like, well, I still got to do what pays the bills first and foremost, and then whatever time's left is time I'll dedicate to this project. So it's definitely going to wear you thin at points. So it's something that you're going to have a passion for, and there's where there's a way, there's a will. If you don't have to do such a large production, I mean, you can make a film on your phone if that's it's really about reframing the thought process into what do I have access to and what do I have the ability to achieve with, the assets I have in front of me. And then, kind of going through the writing process and the pre-production with that in mind. If you write this, grand story that's set in a castle or something, it's just like, well, how are you going to pull this thing off,
with it looking great as well. I mean, you could probably do a castle, but it might not look that great.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to spend a lot of time, maybe that's your thing if you're like a really good 3D artist or something like that. But, you just got to kind of reframe the perspective into what can I do and what can I control. And you really have to be your own producer. If you're waiting for somebody else to kind of come along and help you get across the finish line, that day is just never going to come. And there's going to have to be sacrifices made. You're going to have to make some tough decisions along the way. And, it's not easy when it's your pet project that, you
Yeah.
tenderly love and you want to see it, foster into something great. But, like I said, it's a team sport, and you want to allow room for everybody to have a little bit of, their artistic flair on the project as well. At least I do. I want to leave a little bit of room for everybody to kind of bring something to the table and, make their role, or, whether it's a cast or a crew member, have room for their input and their touch as well.
That's good to hear. Now, Derek, where can everyone find you, my friend?
So right now you can find us primarily on our YouTube channel, Cave House Studios. There's also a Cave House Studios Instagram, or my personal Instagram, Diesel de la Cave. So that's primarily it. You'll see us some other places, but if you want to keep up to date with what's going on a more regular basis, Instagram or YouTube is the place to find us.
Well, go down in the description, everyone. The link to the YouTube is down there. Make sure to check out hit that like and that subscribe button as well to their channel. Derek, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, man. Listen, you're more than welcome to come on anytime.
Appreciate that. Likewise. Thanks for having me.
No problem. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for coming to the Hologram. I'm Travis Bruce. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.